guys, so we're here in DC, and we are going to the Patriot Freedom Project event because we want to bring the thoughts of the people, and that includes the people involved in J6. We're talking families, dependents, loved ones of a lot of these J6 defendants, many of whom are still locked up, pending trial, many of them already convicted. The question, can you even get a fair trial in this city? Obviously, people have mixed opinions about that, but this one is we're going to go and get some feelings from them, those very much intimately involved family members. All right, guys, so this is a very significant event, and I'm here with a very significant woman, okay, an American, and her name is Cynthia Hughes, okay, and her nephew, Tim, he is a defendant in, of course, the J6 matter, and he took it to trial, and was he sentenced? Am I right?
Yes, he was sentenced in September to 4 years in prison.
And at this point, what is your role with this project? And that's your nephew. I'm assuming you're obviously close to him. How did you get here? And what's the significance of this event? And just kind of a little bit about your story.
So, it was very frustrating when he first got arrested. He was bounced around between a few different jails before he landed in what we call DC Gitmo, where he spent 6 straight months and 23 hours a day in a jail cell. And as I started to work on, securing a new lawyer for him and fighting for him, I realized there was a lot of people that needed help.
What's the significance of it, and why are you here?
Well, the significance of the event tonight is to look at and examine the fantastic work that Cynthia Hughes and Patriot Freedom Project has done. Cynthia came to this fight for very personal reasons, and early on she noticed a need amongst the families that the breadwinners, the men, were no longer home. And because of that, the bills weren't being paid, the gas bill wasn't being paid, kids didn't have food on the table, clothes to go to school. So she sensed the need amongst this community of January 6 families to step up and to begin to raise money. So she began to raise money. She began to hold weekly meetings on Mondays, therapeutic sessions, bringing people on who could help people with their spirituality, with the psychology behind the situation, and really getting the families to where they needed to be given the horrible circumstances that they were enduring. Moreover, at some point, Cynthia became aware of the very real fact that a lot of these people did not have meaningful representation in court. And that, let's face it, meaningful representation in federal court, it's expensive. You're litigating against the federal government and the biggest prosecution of the Department of Justice in the history of the United States of America. And with that comes the biggest corresponding budget. And the Department of Justice is trying to crush these people in one way or another. So Cynthia realized that, hey, look, these guys mostly and a few gals need better lawyers. Let's create a fund, or let's create an offshoot of the fund to be able to raise money for legal defense as well. Cynthia and Patriot Freedom Project and the good people that work there have funded hundreds of thousands of dollars, potentially over $1 million at this point, of legal bills and legal fees for these clients. And they have gotten top flight legal representation, the only kind of legal representation that somebody who is prestigious and wealthy in this country would have otherwise gotten because of their financial status. She stepped in the gap, she filled the gap, she's taken blows for it publicly, she's taken blows for it in her private life as well, but she fulfilled a need to get meaningful representation for these families, to put food on the table, and to pay the bills. So we're here to celebrate her. We're here to raise awareness to the ongoing needs that I just discussed, and to see if we can get some more gas in the tank for Cynthia to continue to support these families in their domestic and legal fights.
All right, guys, so I'm here with
Amanda Rock.
Okay, and your relation to this event, your relation to J6, tell the people.
I'm Albuquerque head's wife, and then we've got 3 kids, and we're from Tennessee. So he went up there. He just recently got tried and convicted and got almost 8 years. So it's been rough.
And obviously, the question is, what does that do to you, to your family, to your children, and your question of, the Republic?
It's been really hard. He worked the whole time, so I stayed home with the kids. So it's been really trying to figure out how to work and pay all the bills, and then not letting him out before, he was incarcerated for almost 2 years for he even got sentenced. So, that was hard on itself. So it's been very trying.
What does this event mean to you? And I guess definitely the children.
Oh, I couldn't do it without this event or Cynthia and the Patriot Freedom Project. We wouldn't have probably a home or anything without her. So, I mean, she's really helped us. I had to move and everything, so she's really helped us a lot. So, yeah, I don't think I could do it without them.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, Brad, is my understanding you represented a significant defendant in the J6 matter. Who was it, and what happened with his case?
It's Ken Harrelson. He's a retired U.S. Army vet, disabled with PTSD and also physically. He's been in detention since March 10th of 2021. He was charged with 6 offenses. We were able to get him acquitted on 3, 2 of which were the most serious, including sedition. But the jury disagreed with us on 3 of the lesser charges. We think we have good grounds for appeal going forward.
For the ones that they did get him on, are we talking, minor? Are we talking misdemeanors?
They're felonies, but they're the lesser felonies. I think we're within reach of getting him a sentence consistent with time served, which would hopefully get him out. Among the sad aspects of his situation, as with many of the January 6th defendants, he chose not to participate in the Department of Corrections medical experiment involving experimental vaccines. As a result, he was prohibited from seeing his family members, either in person or through video. So everybody else, if you got the experimental vaccine in 2020 or 2021, you were permitted to have Zoom calls and such.
So he refused, and as a result, he can't use video.
He can't. He hasn't seen the faces of his family, except he saw his wife and his nephew in the courtroom. He hasn't seen his sons, and he hasn't seen his daughter. Until about perhaps 2 months ago, at the beginning of the trial, he had not had a shave or a haircut. He had not had his nails trimmed. And he has limited access to the commissary, which, when you're on a starvation diet, having access to the commissary is very important.
This it sounds like a little bit of a win if you got at least these large, serious charges gone. Does this case bring a little bit of hope at this point?
I think so. They had marching orders to convict everybody on sedition. They were unable to, as it related to Harrelson. The jury verdict is inconsistent with what the government's theory of the case was.
I'm here with Jerry Perna, and if that name rings a bell, Matthew Perna. I know this very well, okay, which he was a J6 defendant, and he, am I right, he was convicted, and he pled guilty. Okay, excuse me, he pled guilty. And then later, after pleading guilty, the amount of time that he would have to serve or exposed to went up. Is that correct?
He was originally told it would be approximately 6 to 12 months in a federal prison camp. And at the week before his sentencing hearing, he was told by his attorney that they were planning to add a sentencing enhancement, which would have taken that 6 to 12 months to 5 to 6 years. And that Friday night, he hung himself in his garage. Yes,
I remember it was extremely emotional. It was moving, and on Twitter we had a Twitter space, a public one, and this was broken down vividly by some people close. And what does this whole entire January 6th, the defendants, the case in the city, question of fair trials, question of due process, take it where you want to go. What does this mean to you? Of course, your loved one is no longer here.
Exactly. And when I attend some of these events and I'm around the J6 families, I almost feel like I'm out of place because they have something that I don't have anymore. They have hope. Well, my hope is gone. So I try to support them as best I can because I don't want to see another family go through this, because what they're being put through is not only unconstitutional, it is inhumane.
Ed, please just let the viewers know a little bit about what the event is, what your position is here, and how you got here.
Well, after January 6th, so many people's lives were turned upside down, right? And you saw it. We heard people arrested, and you're like, wow, they're in jail. It's terrible. Then their families, you're like, this is a real challenging thing. And I was asked to help. I'm a lawyer, so I was asked to help with some of the cases, and I did. But then I realized that alongside the legal work, there's all this work that has to go on for the families. And so I became involved with the Patriot Freedom Project, and that effort is a nonprofit that raises money and has to spend some of it on lawyers for these guys that are in jail. You know, the lawyers are expensive, and the good lawyers are really worth it. It's another debate, but another conversation. But then also help the families. And so this event is before Christmas, 4 weeks, 3.5 weeks before Christmas, to say, hey, can you support this effort? Because we got presents. We're buying presents for the kids. I mean, it's bad enough when adults have a hard time. But when you go over like I did 2 days ago and meet the kids, that dad's gone and mom's had to get 2 jobs.
How are their spirits?
Oh, I mean, they're kids, so they make you feel better, but you can see how bad it is, right? I mean, I have 4 kids. My oldest 18, but then I have a 16, 13, and 10-year-old. One of the families has a 16, a 13, and 10-year-old. And I'm talking to these boys, and dad's gone, right? And I said, I know their dad. I met him, and I said, I'm in the jail because I'm a lawyer. I said, your dad's really smart. And the middle kid said, yeah, he is smart. He's smart. Dad's smart. And he's a good reader. I'm a good reader, too. And he's like, it gives me goosebumps.
I have 3 boys, Ethan, Matthew, and Gabriel are in the crowd. My husband is Joseph Padilla. By the time he goes to trial, it'll be 27 months that we have not seen my husband, and my boys have not seen their father. I promise I wasn't going to cry. Without Patriot Freedom Project, we would have not been able to do this. And I'm forever grateful to this amazing woman.
I'm not going to take up, a lot of time because I would rather you hear from these incredible people standing behind me. But I've had the honor and the privilege of getting to know these families that you see behind me. They have let me into their homes. They have let me interact with their children. They have opened up their hearts to me. I am 24/7 available to them. I get calls in the middle of the night. I get calls early in the morning. I get calls late at night. I am there for all of them whenever they need me, and they know that. And this is just a handful. We here at Patriot Freedom Project, we have supported and helped a ton of families, well into the hundreds. And these are the ones that I was able to bring here, and I would like for you to hear some of their heartbreak and some of their stories. I think it's very important that people that are here in this room and those that are watching the live streams hear what's really going on and where the real collateral damage lies. So please welcome the families of January 6th.
Hello. My name is Joe Jenkins. I'm here to talk. Can I just take this off? Thanks. I'm here to talk about Rachel Powell. The pink hat lady. You probably heard about her. But I want to preface this with something I'm going to tell you that nobody else here will be able to tell you. You're looking at a former lifelong Democrat. Past tense. Sooner or later we grow up. Not only was I a Democrat and voted Democrat my entire life, I actually thought the Democrats were not progressive enough, and I joined the Green Party. I've actually established the Green Party in my county in Pennsylvania, Venango County. That has all changed. I'm one of the converts. The only people I trust anymore are the Republicans, the Libertarians, and the Conservatives. Over the last several years, it should be obvious to all of you why that has occurred. Unfortunately, most of my friends haven't followed suit, but nevertheless, I have a good friend, Rachel Powell. We have a lot in common. She's an organic gardener. She raises chickens. She sells eggs. She sold organic goat cheese at a farmer's market. That's what she was doing. She delivered organic produce to households for a living. She delivered to my business. She delivered to my kid's house. Her and her daughter Ada here, who's sitting in the middle table there. Rachel is a yoga enthusiast. She's a crunchy, organic person, like me. Our kids were born at home. My kids, her kids. We homeschooled. My kids, her kids. That's Rachel Powell. She has 8 children. She has 6 grandchildren. One was born last week. Rachel Powell is now a terrorist in the United States. Rachel Powell tried to overthrow the U.S. government according to the Biden Department of Justice. Rachel Powell is facing the rest of her adult life in prison for protesting election fraud on January 6th. Thanks to the Democrat Party, which I no longer have anything to do with.
We have Jose Padilla, who is a political prisoner in D.C. Gitmo. Hey, Jose, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ms. Cindy, and I want to thank all of you there for being there and showing the support you've been showing. I also want to thank personally Cindy and the Patriot Freedom Project for all the help they've given, not just my family, but getting me a lawyer and everything else they've done. They are just an amazing program. What I'd like to talk about today, though, is the fact that, we've won the House, and now we're going to have some committees. And I would like to encourage all of you to have your friends, call your Congress people. This is a political prosecution, and we need to have as much pressure as possible.
I'd like to thank and congratulate Cynthia Hughes and all of the great people gathered together right now who help so much and do so much for the Patriot Freedom Project. It's been incredible. Patriot freedom is what it's about, and that's not happening in our country. What they've done to torment people and go after people like never before. I don't think anything like this has ever happened in our country before, certainly not to this extent. And you look at other groups which have done terrible things and virtually nothing happened to them. So it's a very unfair situation, and we're going to be, as you know, looking about it and talking about it very, very strongly in the coming weeks, months, and over the next period of a year and a half during the campaign. People have been treated unconstitutionally, in my opinion, and very, very unfairly, and we're going to get to the bottom of it. And you know what I've said. I take it very seriously. I have never seen anything like it at all levels. It's the weaponization of the Department of Justice, and we can't let this happen in our country, because our country is going not socialist. They've skipped over that. They skipped over socialism. Our country is going communist. This is what happens, and we can't let it happen. We have to stop it. So I want to thank everybody for working so hard. I know how hard you're working to get justice for people that are imprisoned right now and people that are being tormented. Can't let it happen. We're going to stop it. We're going to win. Thank you all very much.
There's more foreigners here than Americans. I wonder what this jury pool is like. We can try it.
What's your question today?
Are they going to get a fair trial? J6ers in this town. Is it going to happen? Fair trial? Can they? Yeah, the big giant insurrection, right? January 6th, storming the Capitol. Are they going to get a fair trial in this town?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. I have confidence in the system.
What about all the people who say, hey, look, take it out, take it out, conflict it out, send it somewhere else in America. You got. Can the city, with its residents, support that many? Is the jury pool? Is the candidate? Is there just not enough jurors?
Yeah.
They can absorb this.
I think they can. Yeah. I think they can. I think you should only move a trial under very, very extraordinary circumstances. This took place here. It's not like everyone who's in the jury pool was down there, No, we watched this on TV. I'm in Washington. Somebody watched on TV in Maryland. Somebody watched on TV in Florida. I think everyone got the same experience. You always have to be careful with the screening of the jurors. You've got to make sure that people know what their role is.
How about that? Some of them are still in solitary confinement. What do you think about that? I mean, and back then it was COVID related. It was health related. But what about people still in solitary awaiting trial? Is that an overreach?
Well, solitary should be consistently applied, whether it's health, whether there's a situation where somebody would be a danger themselves or danger to others. I mean, there should be consistent rules. I don't think there should be different rules for different kinds of crimes, maybe different rules for different circumstances, but consistent over 100 years.
So regardless of the crime, it's no one's being punished in solitary, right? It would be unnecessary.
Solitary should be based on objective criteria that are applied across the board. Certainly not due to ideology or race no, it's got to be consistent. People have to have confidence in their systems. Look, systems are far from perfect, but something like criminal justice, you got to work hard to make sure that the people maintain their confidence.
Last one for you. If it turns out to be true that the FBI had people in the crowd, had people involved in the rally, and the Capitol Police opened the doors willingly, do we enter a point of entrapment?
No.
Why not?
Well, first, I don't know if the Capitol Police or the FBI or the militias in Montana have people with bad intent. I don't know that. If there are individuals who are involved in a crime, they should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law, regardless of whether they wore a uniform of the Capitol Police or wore the uniform of the Good Humor Man. In other words, the uniform doesn't matter. If a person commits a crime, then they're going to be prosecuted, whether they work for the government or they work for an anti-government militia.
Yeah, but I'm talking about if you're at the Capitol and the police open the door and say, come in, does that make the case more complex?
No. 100% no. 100% no. If there's a bank guard that tells you, come on in, there's money lying around, then that bank guard should be prosecuted. You should be prosecuted. Entrapment should have a very high bar. Very high bar. Very high bar.
Traffic cop, they wave people through red lights all the time.
If a traffic cop waves people through knowing that they have the intent of breaking the law.
Jim Jordan, if he's the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, to investigate the DOJ's treatment of us. Just going through, case law here in D.C., I've found civil cases that are from BLM protesters suing like the Metro PD, and in the background of the case, it mentions that these protesters were no paper. In other words, the United States Attorney decided not to press charges on them. There's also the climate protests on the 11th and 12th and 13th of 2021. They rioted in front of the White House, attacked uniformed officers. It looked very much like what happened on Jan 6, but these people received tickets. So, the political prosecution is near and dear to my heart. It's an issue that I want to see gone, because no person should be imprisoned because of their political beliefs or their speech. The sedition convictions just earlier this week were based in part on protecting freedom of speech, which, if they can do it to them, they can do it to anyone else.
Hey, baby.
Yes.
I love you, but you're carrying on again.
The secret here, one more secret, is as they politically oppress these people to try to get a political gain, they pick the most American, most sort of normal. These are working people. They're not rich. They're not entitled. These people are missing their rent. They're not missing their mortgage, right? They have to move. And it's just disgusting. So then you step back and you say, hey, how can we make sure they got Christmas, right? How can we make sure one kid needs special education, right? And there's not enough money to pay for Kumon or one of these things. And so we're stepping in there, and that's what motivates us to help.
It's fantastic as far as the kids go, right? I want to ask just one professional question then for you. Since you are an attorney, to the extent you want to describe this, I won't ask you about your clients, but you do have clients in this matter, right?
I do, yeah. Three that I represent. Yep.
Okay, so I guess in your experience, to the people that don't know, pre-trial detention while waiting trial, is this normal, typical? No. Is this extreme? What are your thoughts?
There's nothing normal about what we're seeing, so. I went to law school in the Midwest, St. Louis U. Then I went and clerked for the Court of Appeals, the Federal Court of Appeals. Right below, I tell people AAA to the Supreme Court.
It's not far.
No, it's a real deal. And I did a year of that, and then I went to big law firms. So I know this game, right? And I know how the federal courts work. This is outrageous. I know how the federal prosecutors work. It's outrageous. They're overcharging these guys, and they're holding them, and they're delaying there's supposed to be speedy trials, right? And the speedy trials, what happens in a speedy trial, the calendar gets told because somebody comes in and says, Your Honor, I'm defending my guy, but I got more discovery. I need an extra month. And the judge goes, fine. In this case, we can't get the discovery. The prosecutors won't tell us what the discovery is, and the judge keeps saying, we're going to toll it. And you can't appeal a delay of the speedy trial. It's not an appealable thing. It's an administrative kind of machination. So what's happening is completely foreign to what should be going on. If you hit a cop, you should be charged, right? I got no problem with that. If you break a window, you should be charged. What we saw this past week was 5 people charged with a plethora of charges. Thankfully, 3 got acquitted of a conspiracy to commit sedition, which is, an extended charge. Like, what is that? If you have a conspiracy to commit a crime, show the conduct. But here's where it gets twisted. Among the 3 that got acquitted of that, they were charged with disruption of official proceeding. This is a felony charge that is about witness tampering. It's never been used this way. It was passed after Enron because the people were messing with the prosecutors. It was passed at the behest of Andrew Weissman, the same guy that's weeded through this or threaded through the Obama administration and to today. And this DOJ is creating a felony for disruption of official proceeding, as if the people who showed up to exercise their constitutional rights somehow caused Mike Pence to gavel out the thing. That's not what the statute was set for, and it's a felony. So now you get breaking a window, trespassing, misdemeanor, you'd get a fine and you'd get a record, and you get a felony added on, and bam, you're now getting a lawyer like me who's saying, with that felony, you're looking at 10, 20 years, right, depending. So this is a very twisted time, and what the lawyers will tell you, I'm a little bit more brazen, but because of my mindset, lawyers that practice in this court will tell you it's not normal. The judges are allowing this to go on. This is not, and the reason why is because the successful manipulation of the perception, the public, the narrative, is that it was insurrection. And once you did that, people say, oh my gosh, it's insurrection. There's no more insurrection. There's some bad people. Some people did some dumb things. This was like a riot at the Jets-Giants game. I'm from. That's what it's like. And after that, it's not. You can't call it an insurrection.
The only thing I would add, which is fair, because I'm a very honest, fair journalist, but I posed the question: is insurrection? A ton of people went. People did various things independently.
Sure.
but then they all left.
Right.
Yeah, it's just I'm struggling with the
Right.
the insurrection where thousands of people leave.
Yeah, leave peacefully and all the rest, right? It's again at this point in our American sort of history, in our American society, there's such a failure on the part of our institutions to be trustworthy that you can't blame the people. And here's what makes me upset. If there's a political fight and you're one side and I'm the other, and we're having a fight, argument, pushing, even hard, maybe we're banging away, running candidates against each other. That's one thing. When you do these to these men, their families, you meet them, they're devastated. I mean, it's collateral damage to these people, and that's not fair. America doesn't do that. That's not who we are.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate
Thanks for the time.
How they are treating these people. My nephew was a vibrant, active, successful businessman, and he had reached the point where he was embarrassed to leave his home. And to watch somebody go from up here to down here and know that our country, our government is responsible for it, I have no words. I don't even know what to say about that anymore. I'm sickened.
Where's this is a tough one. Where's the hope? Where's the optimism? What can you hope will come of this? Where can we find some betterment? Is there opportunity?
Well, the only hope I see for the J6ers is not going to happen until we have a true president in office, and that would be President Trump. He is the only one that will pardon these people. I believe that with all my heart. But even so, what is a pardon going to do for the damage that has been done? They've lost their jobs, their retirements. They've lost friends and family. Communities have turned against them. A pardon isn't going to erase all of that, but it's a start. And I want a pardon for Matthew. Even though he's gone, I want that pardon, and I won't rest until we get one. But I don't see that happening with our current administration. And what the J6 committee is doing is just ludicrous, what they're doing. They know darn well this was a setup. They know that they set these people up and they destroyed lives over it. They're evil.
Thank you, and of course my condolences, and if there's anything else you'd like to say.
I would just like to say that people need to wake up in this country. They need to realize that this could happen to them. They could sit on their couch and say, well, that would never be me, but they're sadly mistaken. They could speak out at a school board meeting, or they could disagree with something on an airplane, or they could speak out at a council meeting and find themselves in the same shoes my nephew was, the subject of ridicule and the possibility of prison. And if they don't wake up and speak up, the freedoms in our country will be completely gone, and it's going to be a very sad state of affairs.
There was nowhere to turn, nowhere to connect, nowhere to go to find out what was going on with January 6th.
And you learned this through him, through interacting with him?
Well, obviously through him, and interacting with him, and the lack of interaction with him because, the guys in D.C. jail, they spent the first 6 months in solitary confinement. And you went some days without even hearing.
It's a long time for solitary.
Yeah, to be in a cell for 23 hours a day, that's mental torture. And they should not have been in solitary confinement. They were because of COVID reasons. Meanwhile, throughout the country at the same time, many states were releasing, serious violent offenders because of COVID and locking up people like my nephew, Tim, who had nonviolent charges.
So people previously convicted, serving a sentence, we did see it. There's a lot of them, they were released. And here you have pretrial detention that went to solitary, and they had to remain. And how serious was the charges against him?
Tim had a felony charge of obstruction of an official proceeding, which is considered a felony. The rest of his charges were misdemeanors. He is not accused of violence. He committed no acts of violence. He committed no assaults on anybody, and he had no criminal history. He had one incident when he was a teenager. He got a ticket for, I don't even remember. It was so stupid. It was a ticket. Slap on the
It was
hand.
a minor.
It was a little minor offense. He was 18 years old.
And it didn't stop him from, was he in the service? Am I correct?
Yeah, so he joined the Army. He served in the Army for 12 years. They threw him out like garbage last year before his charges were even adjudicated. This is somebody who had great work ethic, who served his country, who did not have criminal history. He had no violent charges, and they locked him away like he was a monster. And he still sits in jail. He's got 4 years to do.
I'm just wondering where the presumption of innocence is, because you look at someone like Major Nadal Hassan. He shoots up Fort Hood. I don't know about his discharge, but nonetheless, innocent till proven guilty. And it sounds like he was cut from the military. I guess that would, I'm assuming, stop his pay and also his benefits, medical and dental and everything.
Everything was cut. And he's not the only one. There's multiple people that are served in the military that lost their benefits.
As much as they try to sugarcoat it, the bottom line is it's contradictory. The jury's verdict is contradictory to the government's entire theory. Among the things that we showed is how the government was not accurate in terms of how it presented its exhibits, particularly its video exhibits. They played things out of order. They began videos too late, leaving out important context. They ended videos too soon, leaving out important context. They zoomed in. And probably most egregiously, they put the Oath Keepers in front of the Columbus doors at the time the police were being attacked. There were a series of trained goons, ghosts, that were attacking police during the last two stanzas of the national anthem at approximately 2:32 p.m. The Oath Keepers were clearly on the stairs. That's hundreds of feet out in front. It's through a pillar, it's through a crowd, and it's below. So their heads at best were at knee level of the crowds that were standing on top of that Columbus door level. So essentially what happened was in the government exhibit, they played two versions of video where Lawrence Ligos and Insider 486 sandwiched Isaacs, who's an Oath Keeper, and the crowd parted, as the government said, and they were brought right to the front at approximately 2:37:50. The door opened at 2:37:50. The door opened at 2:38:30.
40
so
seconds.
They had 40 seconds to make a decision. They're brought in. It's a cacophony. They're surrounded. Everybody's cheering them. You see Isaacs being brought up to the front of the door by Ligos and by Insider 46, who remains unidentified to this day. And you see Harrelson walk up because he was told by Ligos or somebody like Ligos on the stairs that the police were being attacked up by the Columbus doors. Can you come and help? So the Oath Keepers went up to help.
It's good intentions, and then they get popped.
Absolutely, and they go up there, and you can see Harrelson. He's craning his neck because the existing video is people holding their video cameras about this level, so you're like over your head, right? But if our eyeballs, I'm looking at the back of your head, right? So their vision was blocked. You had flags in the way, and you can see Harrelson. He's like looking to see who needs help, and then he had 30 seconds. And the doors are open from the inside. And nobody on that landing believed they were doing anything wrong. That's the big concealed fact that America doesn't know.
I'll just leave it as a question out there for the viewers. But that's what I said. If you have police opening a door, if you have federal agents within the crowd presenting as people, motivating people, and then of course the video footage, which is questionable all over the place. I'm wondering, when does the word entrapment come in? Has that even been used? Is it such a monumental case? You take it as it comes. I don't know. We don't have to go over it, but I guess that's kind of the question I keep raising is, police involvement that we haven't really even heard the details yet.
There's a lot more information that's going to come out through subsequent discovery requests. We were largely unsuccessful at getting discovery about what we believe is a control room inside the Capitol that would have authorized the electronic release of the door, both at 225, which was the first Columbus door opening, and at 238:30, which was the second Columbus door opening. There is a control room where they're monitoring video, and for whatever reason, Congress has refused to answer whether there's a third-party release mechanism for the door. We've spoken to experts who are familiar with the kind of door that's used in the Capitol.
You guys ID'd the officers that are in that room controlling those doors yet?
Some of them. It's from the judiciary's perspective. Their perspective is, look, I could issue a subpoena, but Congress isn't going to comply with it, and there's nothing they can do. My answer to that is, well, then dismiss the case, because it's one big government. So one of the travesties, and it's just a parade of travesties, is that the people that were standing in front of the Columbus doors did not have the proper mens rea. The assumption that was made was the doors were being opened from the inside to let them in. There was very little violence other than these goons, these trained goons that came through the northeast barriers at 157. They came to the northeast barriers. And other than the goons that aggregated in the morning in front of the east steps by the planters, they were there from about 9 a.m., and they came through at about 1:59, just after Vice Presidential Pence's motorcade ripped out. Other than the trained goons that were in those two areas, there was almost no violence for the entire day on those east steps.
Yeah, I'll just leave you with this, Brad. Thanks. You've been fantastic, giving us all this insight. And your case is obviously a pretty big one. As I just raised the question, I don't know this. It's the only insurrection I've seen. But I say you have thousands and thousands of people, and it seemed like at one point they all just left. And the place didn't burn down. The place wasn't occupied. I'm not saying, this isn't really my opinion. It's just an observation is they came and left.
Yes. As time goes on, we're going to get more information that is released right now. A lot of it's under court seal. And you and your viewers are going to be able to see the museum-like crowds throughout the inside of the Capitol. At worst, there was some pushing at limited locations within the Capitol. There was almost no violence inside the Capitol. And ultimately, I don't know how long it'll take. People will be able to see that for themselves and make their own judgments.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Yep, I appreciate it. All right, so we're here with Jonathan Gross, and is this my understanding you're an attorney and you represent one or more J6 defendants?
I am named counsel on 3 J6 defendants.
Are these cases still active?
Yeah, they're all still active, exactly.
Okay, jury trials, is that what we're expecting?
So right now we're in the strategic phases for all of them.
So to be determined.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so then drive this wherever you want it to go.
Okay.
What I'm hearing is, I'm not an attorney, but what I'm hearing is some of the unique things about this. One is the pretrial detention for sometimes pretty minor offenses. We're coming up on a long time. But any other anomalies that you've noticed?
No, I mean, just if I could mention one of my clients, it's Christopher Quaglin, and he was in the D.C. jail, and then they moved him to a jail in Virginia, and he has celiac disease, and the jails. All of them. He's been in 6 different prisons, and none of them are able to get it right. It's very difficult. It's like a severe allergy, and they refuse to give him any kind of gluten-certified meal, and he's concerned about cross-contamination. He could get seriously injured from that, and he's lost 60 pounds in prison. And he's
to the extent that you can or willing to, how do you manage that as his attorney, where you kind of don't know what the clock looks like, you just know that it's not on your side, talking health wise? How do you manage that?
Yeah, I mean, he's in crisis. He's absolutely in health crisis. It makes it impossible for us to prepare for his criminal trial. I mean, he's he can't concentrate. And we're working to get him out as best we can so he can prepare for trial, at the very least.
Yeah. Last one for you. This event, why are you here? What does it mean to you? And is this unique in some of your work where you would come to an event like this?
No. As an attorney, yes. I used to be a rabbi, actually, so I used to come to events like this all the time, and we're here to really support the families tonight. That's what it's all about, and we urge everybody to support the families in any way that they can.
Yeah, thanks so much for your time. So, Joseph, one of your defendants is now made infamous, and that's Richard Big O Barnett. He was the gentleman, put his feet on Nancy Pelosi's desk. He wrote her a mean note. Okay, no threats is my understanding, but nonetheless, he was there, and he had a hard time in confinement. He's now, I guess, confined, off the premises. He's at home arrest, if you will, until his trial. To the extent that you can, any updates on his case or all your cases for that matter, whatever you can speak to.
Sure. So Richard Barnett walked into the Speaker's wing of the House of Representatives on January 6th of 2021, not really knowing where he was at. The Columbus doors on the east side of the Capitol opened. He was pushed in on video. He's actually saying, "Oh my God, the doors are opening. We're going in. We're going in." He tried to go back. He gets pushed over the line of scrimmage. He goes in and he looks for the bathroom. He ends up in the Speaker's office. He doesn't even know he's there. Two French journalists from the French Associated Press tell him, "Do you know where you're at? Would you like to take a picture? Act like you're at home." He sits at home. He goes, "Oh, at home, I put my feet up on my desk." Puts his feet up. Boom, they take a picture. He becomes the face of the insurrection. Now they want 20 years in jail. 60-year-old man, no prior criminal history of any kind, former firefighter, loves his country, loves his family. You want to take away his life? It's wrong. Ryan Nichols, decorated U.S. Marine Corps veteran, search and rescue specialist, business owner, father to two beautiful sons, father to a beautiful wife, the best of what America has to offer. Went to the Capitol that day. The day wasn't perfect. They kept him in pretrial detention for almost 2 years. They tortured him. They beat him. They starved him. They drove him to suicide watch. Happy to say we just got him out a few weeks ago. Now he's going to be home, fighting from the comfort of his home, food in his belly, the Bible in his hand, and we're going to go to war, and we're going to win that trial. Adam Lehigh Jackson, he was accused of throwing a cone at the Capitol Police on January 6th, throwing a cone, and they kept him in jail for 3 months, and they tried to keep him in jail for far past that time. We were able to get him out because people like you and people like Cynthia donated and prayed and made that happen. Christopher Quaglin is a client of mine. He's still in jail at this time. He is down 60 pounds. 60 pounds. He is 10 pounds away from death. He has celiac disease. They are feeding him knowingly, maliciously, and purposely feeding him food that they know will kill him because they don't want him to go to trial. He needs your prayers. He needs your help. He needs your consideration. There are other clients that I represent as well, like Daniel Goodwin. Daniel Goodwin is diagnosed with autism. He is a brilliant person, and he's also a special person in many ways. He has a documented mental health condition. He went to the Capitol, voiced his objections, petitioned his government for redress of grievances, and now they're charging him with obstruction. He was in the Capitol, walked through an open door. He was there for like 45 seconds, and they want years of his life. This is wrong. This must stop, and we cannot do it without your prayers and without your support.
Yeah, thank you. Incredible. And lastly, I know you're pretty active on Twitter. Where can the viewers find you?
You can find me at McBride Law NYC on Twitter, and my website is McBrideLawNYC.com. McBride Law NYC across all social media platforms.
Thanks, Joseph.
God bless you, brother.
Yep. Can you get a fair trial in this town? Are there enough jurors in the pool to get a fair trial here? Many convictions already. Many guilty as charged already. So we're gonna see what we can learn right from here.